This girl worked as a waitress but always let her hair cover her eyes. On top of that, her face was always sad. When customers saw this, they were curious and asked other employees. Those words were accidentally heard by the salon director. She immediately called the girl into the break room and scolded her mercilessly. Although hairdressing was a technical profession, it was also a service profession. How could you use a sad face to communicate with customers? The director looked at the girl, who showed no reaction at all. She could only helplessly leave, leaving the girl standing there picking at her nails. When she got home, she started thinking about the director's scolding words. Ji-bum was determined to change herself, so she took out her phone, turned on the video, and practiced smiling. But because she laughed too loudly, Ji-bum made her neighbors very uncomfortable. They shouted at her to be quiet. The next day, when she went to the hair salon, her forced smile startled her colleagues. Ji-bum was looked at with strange eyes. She was filled with disappointment and sadness. After changing into her uniform, Ji-bum went to her colleagues and explained that she was trying to smile just now. Ji-bum sincerely said that if it wasn't good enough, she would continue to practice to improve. Everyone commented that her hair covering her eyes made Ji-bum look even more gloomy. She decided to cut her bangs herself to try to change her image. However, Ji-bum's unusual bangs drew disapproval from the stylist Kwang-soo. He thought that the hairstyle didn't suit her and told her to sit down so he could fix it. With just a few strokes of the scissors, he gave Ji-bum a completely new bang style. Her colleagues were amazed. They said that her face was very beautiful. She should have cut her bangs a long time ago. She would look much brighter and friendlier. However, Ji-bum felt like a clown when she looked in the restroom mirror. She took off her scarf and ran in, feeling extremely uncomfortable and frustrated. She thought that the new hairstyle Kwang-soo cut was worse than cutting it herself. At that moment, she felt suffocated by the gazes of everyone around her. This made Ji-bum even more withdrawn and distrustful. When facing customers, she did not dare to say a word out loud. Ji-bum stood still in place and mumbled for more than 10 minutes. Finally, a colleague appeared, attracted the customer's attention, and saved her. Ji-bum was confused and embarrassed. She did not know whether to thank her or hide her face. The scene caught the eyes of a female colleague who had always been paying attention to Ji-bum. She commented that since entering the salon, Ji-bum had been acting very strangely and awkwardly. Even though it was due to her personality, the female colleague still thought that Ji-bum was not very smart. Because the new bangs made Ji-bum uncomfortable, she was in a daze all day. She was so distracted that she even mistook a regular customer. The director was standing nearby, and when she saw this, she was so angry that she almost went crazy. At lunchtime, the director deliberately asked Ji-bum about the new hair dye when it would be available. She still answered in a low voice, no different from how Ji-bum usually responded before. The director angrily asked her to speak up and correct her work attitude. The director criticized that changing the hairstyle was useless. Ji-bum's personality remained gloomy. Seeing this, a stylist named Jen spoke up to defend her. She thought that Kwang-soo was also at fault. Jen blamed Kwang-soo for cutting Ji-bum's bangs, making Ji-bum feel more awkward and self-conscious. Kwang-soo immediately argued that this hairstyle was perfect for her face shape. He said the length, hair texture, and style were all perfect. There was nothing to criticize. Jen immediately sarcastically said that because of this personality type, Kwang-soo couldn't keep his regular customers. If the customers didn't like it, it wouldn't be any use for him to find it beautiful. Seeing the two arguing just because of her made Ji-bum feel extremely guilty. She apologized to everyone, then sadly left the salon and went home. She remembered what the principal of the vocational school had told her in the past. Whether working in a restaurant or a company, she had to always smile and behave politely. Ji-bum had to know how to take the initiative to start a conversation to make a good impression on customers. Those words came back to her mind, making her worry and think a lot. Ji-bum didn't want to give up her hairdressing career because it was the job she truly loved. She gathered all her courage, determined to change and start over on her own. Ji-bum wanted to overcome her fear of direct contact with customers. A male colleague named Moo Yol advised her to look straight at the customer and smile. He said that if she still kept such a serious expression, she'd end up scaring the customers away. Ji-bum felt that the advice was very correct, so she decided to try it immediately. She stared at the customer to show her goodwill, but did not blink at all. Her action made the customer uncomfortable because she felt scrutinized and pressured. Even though the customer showed discomfort, Ji-bum continued to stare. The customer asked to be changed because she could not stand Ji-bum's strange gaze. Ji-bum felt helpless. She could only run to the corner of the warehouse and quietly endure it alone. After adjusting mood, Ji-bum returned to work with a calmer expression. An old lady asked Ji-bum to get a wet towel, then bent down close to her face. Even though she didn't understand anything, Ji-bum still did, as she didn't want to cause any more misunderstandings. Turned out that Ji-bum had dye on her forehead, and the old lady just wanted to help Ji-bum clean it up. Seeing the customer's concern, her tears couldn't help but fall. Ji-bum burst into tears and ran out of the salon. She couldn't control her emotions anymore. Ji-bum Gi-bum stood in the corner and sobbed as if she had been overwhelmed. After the salon closed, she cleaned up in a sad mood. Gi-bum felt that she really wasn't suited for her dream job as a hairdresser. She planned to go see the director, to quit her job and leave the salon. However, before she could say anything, the director saw through her intentions and quickly changed the subject. The director suggested taking the group out to dinner as a way to relieve stress. They arrived at the restaurant, but an ironic scene made everyone embarrassed. The private room they booked was the floor sitting type. Everyone had to take off their shoes before entering. Because hairdressers have to stand for long hours, their feet often sweat and smell bad. Therefore, everyone is afraid to enter a private room and often avoids places where they need to take off their shoes. When they first entered the room, the smell of feet almost made the waiter faint. The funny situation made everyone not know how to react. During the meal, everyone took turns encouraging Gi-bum to try to overcome her fear. They hoped she would overcome her social phobia to suit the service profession. Hairdressing required contact with many people and communication all day long. In a year, Gi-bum would become an official hairdresser. If she was still shy, it would be very difficult to do it. If she kept talking like that, how would she keep customers coming back? Hearing her colleagues tease her, Gi-bum didn't know what to say. She just drank quietly. When the party ended, the director was worried that something bad would happen if she got drunk, so he asked Muyol to take Gi-bum home. Although he was reluctant, he still agreed. Seeing a drunk guy trying to sit next to Gi-bum, Muyol immediately sat down next to Gi-bum to protect her. She asked Muyol if she was useless and incompetent. Gi-bum blamed himself for not even having the courage to speak up. She praised him for knowing how to talk and always treating customers tactfully. Muyol was the first hairdresser Gi-bum had seen who knew how to make customers happy when they left. It turned out that Muyol had previously exchanged phone numbers with that female customer. Gi-bum accidentally saw that scene, making him extremely embarrassed. Muyol blamed himself for being too careless and told her absolutely not to say anything. The next day after work, Gi-bum walked home alone through the crowded neighborhood. Seeing a street performer perform, she mustered up the courage to step onto the stage. Gi-bum introduced herself, then sang a song that was completely off-key. The audience quickly lost interest, causing everyone to lower their heads and scroll through their phones. That scene caught Muyol's eye. He smiled because Gi-bum dared to step onto the stage. He knew she had finally dared to step out of her comfort zone. Muyol believed that as long as Gi-bum persevered and worked hard, she would definitely one day reap success. The next day at the hair salon, Gi-bum boldly walked up to the customer with her loudest voice. For the first time, she spoke clearly. Gi-bum invited the customer to sit down. The customer complained about split ends. He wanted advice on effective hair care. However, Gi-bum replied that there was no need to use more products at the moment. The statement made the director restless. She did not know whether to be happy or worried. The director immediately called Gi-bum to remind her about the product introduction. She asked Gi-bum to know how to market at the right time to keep customers coming back. Only when the business was going well would employees have the opportunity to receive bonuses. However, Gi-bum suffered from social phobia. She always stammered when standing next to customers. Gi-bum was confused and could not say anything, making the atmosphere extremely awkward. The director had to step forward in time and quickly introduce the salon's service package. She introduced the promotion program of buying 6 sessions and getting a 20% discount. Unexpectedly, the customer immediately agreed to sign up, which surprised the director a bit. She felt a little unbelievable, but still quickly took down the customer's information. At noon, Gi-bum planned to go out to buy lunch and left the salon in a good mood. As soon as she stepped out, she met some strangers who said they were Muyol's friends and asked Gi-bum to call him out. As soon as Muyol stepped forward, the strangers immediately started chasing and attacking him, leaving her shocked. Gi-bum panicked, thinking that she had caused trouble by accidentally calling Muyol out. After buying food and returning to the salon, Gi-bum still hadn't seen Muyol return. She worriedly asked Kwang-soo if he had seen Muyol, but he told Gi-bum to take care of the guests first. She worked the whole day in a state of anxiety and fidgeting. Her female colleague was also upset because Muyol suddenly disappeared without leaving a word. She thought he was irresponsible for leaving work without telling anyone. In the evening, while Gi-bum was eating, Muyol returned to the salon in a daze with a tired face. It turned out that the boyfriend of the girl from the day before had come to the salon to beat him up. Just when Muyol was about to leave, Gi-bum was practicing cutting her hair. She accidentally cut her hand, so he had to come and help her right away. Muyol quickly found a bandage. He gently told her not to practice anymore today and to rest. Muyol wanted to help Gi-bum bandage her wound, but she refused because she didn't want to bother him. Muyol realized that Gi-bum really lacked communication skills and didn't know how to refuse. He wanted to say something to her, but in the end, he just quietly left the medicine bottle on the table and left in silence without saying another word, making Gi-bum confused and uneasy. When she got home, Gi-bum received a call from her mother asking about the jar of kimchi she had just sent, but her mother didn't know that Gi-bum actually hated eating kimchi. She brought kimchi to give to the landlady. The next morning, Gi-bum woke up late and rushed to the salon in a panic. Today was the day. Gi-bum was in charge of cleaning, so she couldn't be late. When she entered the salon, Mu-yeol had already finished cleaning and was showing off as usual, recounting yesterday's dramatic escape with pride and excitement. The director had just arrived at the salon, her face unhappy. She was about to scold Mu-yeol for leaving his job without permission when he suddenly raised his hands and knelt down. All the employees in the salon immediately fell silent, holding their breaths, waiting for the outcome of the incident. Everyone thought Mu-yeol would be fired immediately for his irresponsible actions, but instead of firing him, the director only criticized Mu-yeol. After being severely disciplined by her, Mu-yeol started working harder than before. He was as diligent as a chicken pecking at rice, working to the point that no one could find fault with him. In the end, Mu-yeol was tipped by a customer for his attentive service. During the lunch break, a man drove up to the front of the salon looking for Mu-yeol. The man said he was Mu-yeol's friend, but the director suspected that he was a love rival who came to cause trouble. She thought that Mu-yeol was involved in a complicated love affair and was about to be beaten up again. To avoid a conflict in the middle of a crowded salon, the director worriedly looked for a way to handle it. She called Mu-yeol, but his phone was in the closet. Then, she asked Gi-bum to immediately go find Mu-yeol because the situation could be very serious. When Gi-bum entered this door, Mu-yeol also came out from the other door. He was happily chatting with a beautiful girl when Gi-bum pulled him away in a hurry. She pointed at the man who was waiting, causing Mu-yeol to stop. He didn't want to see that person. Gi-bum asked who the man was, but Mu-yeol just stuttered and didn't answer clearly. The director signaled Gi-bum to tactfully take the man away. Unexpectedly, a customer in the salon recognized who the man was. It turned out that he was Kang In, a famous national football player on TV. The customer tried to take out his phone to ask him for a photo, making things even more noisy. Kang In was discovered and quickly left the salon without saying a word. The whole salon fell into a tense atmosphere. Everyone understood that this matter was very serious. People started whispering about Mu-yeol daring to approach the player's girlfriend. The director couldn't sit still. She immediately called Mu-yeol out to ask about an urgent private matter. Soon after, the hair salon fell into chaos due to rumors that Mu-yeol was about to be fired. Gi-bum was the only one who felt sorry if Mu-yeol was fired, not because she was worried about him, but because the salon was currently severely understaffed. If Mu-yeol left, the remaining employees would have to work much harder. When the end of the working day was almost over, the director called all the employees together, making everyone wait anxiously. Everyone thought that she would officially announce Mu-yeol's dismissal. Unexpectedly, the director only strictly reminded them to save hair restoration medicine. She asked everyone to use the correct dosage, especially during practice sessions. The next day, Gi-bum and Mu-yeol got into a heated argument while practicing together at the salon. The reason stemmed from Mu-yeol revealing the reason why he entered the hair industry. It turned out that Mu-yeol had met a beautiful girl while having a late-night snack, and she was a hair industry student. He decided to go to beauty school, not because of passion, but to flirt with girls. Everyone laughed and wondered if Mu-yeol had succeeded in flirting. He confidently asserted that he had pursued her, but now Mu-yeol didn't know who she was with. Gi-bum thought this was ridiculous. She bluntly mocked him for not being serious. Hearing Gi-bum speak ill of him, Mu-yeol immediately reacted and questioned her harshly. He asked Gi-bum if she had any noble ideals to choose hairdressing. Mu-yeol mocked that Gi-bum wasn't smart enough to be a doctor or a lawyer, and she wasn't a rich girl. He thought that Gi-bum entered this profession simply to make a living. There was nothing noble about it. Mu-yeol advised her not to act noble when everyone else was just doing it for food and clothing. In the end, both of them were upset and unhappy when the study class ended that day. The next morning, Jen found Mu-yeol and she told him that men should be generous and not picky. Jen pulled him in front of Gi-bum. She said that Mu-yeol wanted to apologize and that Mu-yeol would help Gi-bum practice. Mu-yeol reluctantly agreed to be a model so that Gi-bum could try his hand at cutting hair for free. When she was about to cut his hair, he asked why Gi-bum was smiling so wickedly. She replied that this was the first time Gi-bum had cut a real person's hair and was very excited. Mu-yeol worriedly asked what style she was going to cut, and Gi-bum accidentally blurted out crop style. Hearing that, he strongly objected because he didn't want to change his hairstyle too much. While the two were arguing, Gi-bum quickly finished cutting the hair. This was the first time in her life that she had successfully cut a real person's hair. The next morning, everyone in the salon praised Mu-yeol's haircut. However, Mu-yeol pointed out a small mistake in the cut. Kwang-soo and Jen argued endlessly over it. They made the atmosphere tense. The next day, Kwang-soo received a female customer who was worried about her premature gray hair. The customer shyly said that she often had to dye her hair because it was too gray. Instead of comforting her, Kwang-soo said bluntly that it was not premature gray hair, but old gray hair. The atmosphere immediately became awkward as he continued to explain in more detail. detail. Kwang-soo coldly emphasized the difference between premature gray hair and old gray hair. This made the customer feel extremely embarrassed in front of a crowd. The director saw this and immediately ran over to calm her emotions and ease the heavy atmosphere. Kwang-soo could only stand by helplessly. He did not understand why this situation had happened. The director at this moment just wanted to bang her head against the wall because of the employee's lack of tact. She quickly said that it was because the light reflected on the customer's hair, making it look grayer than usual. The director gently complimented the customer for still looking young and charismatic. Then, she quickly changed seats with the customer. The customer was somewhat reassured and regained some confidence to continue the beauty session. Due to the lack of customers, the director took the opportunity to hold a summary meeting to discipline the entire salon. During the meeting, she sternly asked Suri to pay more attention to her appearance and dress. The director hinted that Suri needed to control her weight because this job required her to always be neat and tidy. She also reminded Gi-bum not to be so gloomy all the time. She looked like she had lost her soul in the salon. At first, the director even planned to shout the salon's slogan to raise morale, but when she saw that everyone was silent, she left in frustration. That same day, the hair salon received a guest who terrified everyone. His appearance shook the entire salon like an earthquake. Jong-min, a 6-year-old boy famous for his sharp tongue, made everyone afraid. Every time he came to the salon, all the staff avoided him. They hoped not to be called by their name. The director had just complimented a customer who was only 40 years old and still very young. The customer found Jong-min cute and asked how old he was. Jong-min replied that he was 6 years old, and then suddenly asked her how old she was. As soon as she heard that, the customer's expression changed immediately. She went from happy to angry. All the staff fell silent because they were too used to Jong-min's carefree way of speaking. Everyone sighed because they knew that the boy would cause such an embarrassing situation. All the employees in the salon had been given unpleasant nicknames by Jong-min. Because the director had gotten Botox injections, she was called a balloon by the boy, leaving her utterly embarrassed. Suri was teased by Jong-min as a panda sister because of her chubby body. Everyone in the salon had a nickname in his heart. Jong-min's appearance made everyone depressed. Everyone whispered and gossiped. He was clearly a cute kid, but his mouth was too sharp. The person who felt the most helpless was Mu-yeol because Jong-min had seen Mu-yeol being intimate. From that time on, Mu-yeol was nicknamed the top shrimp brother by the boy. Gi-bum was called a dark cloud sister, making her feel even more self-conscious and insecure. Although she knew she shouldn't take children's words to heart, everyone was affected. Everyone silently looked back at themselves and thought about what they needed to change. Among them, Suri was the one who tried the hardest to make a good impression on her son. She forced herself to wear a corset to make her waist look a little slimmer. Seeing her belly getting smaller, Suri felt satisfied and confident with her current appearance. She did not forget to carefully apply lipstick before going out to the salon to start a new working day. At that moment, a young man walked into the hair salon and asked for Suri. Suri happily ran out to greet him. It turned out that he was the hair model she had made an appointment with before. Mu-yeol saw him and curiously asked Suri if he was her boyfriend or just a normal friend. She replied that he was just a friend, but her eyes were hesitant and full of hidden meaning, making Mu-yeol suspicious. Gi-bum, who was sitting next to her, saw the two chatting intimately and suddenly felt jealous. Mu-yeol noticed Gi-bum's strange expression. He immediately asked her if she wanted to date anyone. Mu-yeol asked Gi-bum what kind of person he liked. He wanted to introduce her to a suitable person. Gi-bum said he needed someone with thick and long hair so that she could practice her dream hairstyle. Only then did Mu-yeol understand what Gi-bum meant. He laughed and asked her if she wanted a boyfriend or just a hair model. While washing Gi-bum's hair, Mu-yeol suddenly asked her if she had ever been in love. Gi-bum silently avoided the question. She then used the excuse that the water was too hot to change the subject. On the way home, Suri and the other guy talked happily and kept laughing. She even boldly declared that from now on, she would be in charge of his hair. When Suri helped the guy fix his windblown hair, her younger sister saw her action. To ease the awkwardness, Suri quickly said goodbye to him and pulled her younger sister home. The younger sister immediately asked her if that was Suri's boyfriend. Suri blushed. She told Suri to reconsider her aesthetic taste and then turned away. As soon as she entered the house, her younger sister continued to ask for information about the other guy. Seeing that she was too interested, Suri quickly brushed it off and said that he was very normal, nothing special. However, her younger sister still refused to give up. She asked Suri to give her the guy's contact information. The girl declared that she would contact him herself to find out more because she found him quite pleasing to the eye. Suri looked at herself in the mirror. A feeling of inferiority rose strongly in her heart. Suri wished that she could lose a little weight, then she would definitely be much more beautiful than she was now. But it was all just a wish. The truth was that she was still a fat girl who could not change. The next day, the guy asked Suri out to eat. She happily prepared and posted a post on social media. media. However, a few girls sitting at the next table accidentally said, "not worthy." Suri thought they were saying she was not worthy of him, so she quickly ran to the bathroom. She blamed herself for not being prettier or a little thinner. Back at the dining table, Suri was surprised to see her younger sister sitting next to her and chatting happily with the guy. Seeing that scene, a feeling of disappointment rose in her heart, and Suri quietly sat down without saying anything. The director of the hair salon was the luckiest woman. She just wanted to open her own hair salon, but unexpectedly, there was an unexpected opportunity. 6 months ago, the director was just an ordinary hairstylist in a small salon. One stormy day when everyone was about to close up Salon and go home, a customer walked in. It was an old lady with a fierce appearance that everyone avoided and did not dare to welcome. Before she could react, the director was stopped by the old lady and asked to have her hair cut. She reluctantly took the old lady to the hair salon. Seeing the messy, dirty hair, the director tried to suppress the feeling of disgust in her heart. She gently asked the old lady what kind of haircut she wanted. The old lady replied that she wanted a luxurious and attractive hairstyle. This was the most horrible haircut the director had ever seen. It was so dirty that it made the whole salon dizzy. She used up 4 bottles of shampoo, but still could not clean the old lady's scalp and hair. The director had never had to use such force before. Even when she washed clothes, it was not this hard. Washing and washing again and again still could not smoothen the dry, frizzy hair. Reluctantly, the director had to cut off all of the old messy hair of the grumpy old lady to create a luxurious and attractive hairstyle. She worked meticulously for 4 hours. Finally, the old lady was reluctantly satisfied and said thank you before leaving. When paying, she immediately stuffed something into the director's hand and quietly left the salon. At first glance, she thought the old lady was crazy because she had no money in her hand. The director hurriedly chased after her, but she had disappeared on the deserted street. Returning to the salon, she opened the paper the old woman gave her and was surprised to see that it was a winning lottery ticket. Unexpectedly, that lottery ticket brought home a prize of 78 million won. From then on, the director pursued her dream of opening her own hair salon with a unique style. She found a suitable location, but knew she couldn't do it alone. The director needed more talented people to join her in building the salon. The first person she invited was Kwang Soo. He was a famous scissor master in the profession. The second person was Jen. She was a color magician known for being charming and wild. The framework of the hair salon gradually took shape with the 3 main characters officially planning. They discussed the layout of the space together and then designed the salon in their own style. It could be said that everything was ready, just waiting for the first win to start. The final step was to recruit a hairdressing assistant for the newly established salon. The interview was tense, as the competition was the hiring committee. A girl who was both beautiful and experienced made the director and Jen very satisfied. However, Kwang Soo immediately eliminated her after circling half a circle and crossing her out. He considered Jen his sworn enemy in the hairdressing industry. Jen saw Kwang Soo deliberately confronting her, so she did not give in and immediately responded. From that moment on, the secret war between Kwang Soo and Jen officially began. Whether Kwang Soo agreed or not, Jen still maintained her opinion. The recruitment regulations required consensus from everyone, putting the candidate at a disadvantage. The 2 people constantly argued, making the director feel helpless and not knowing how to handle the situation. If that situation had continued, no one would ever have been hired. Therefore, the director decided to change the selection method by choosing based on the majority. The next candidate who came in startled all 3 of them because the profile photo was too fake. The photo had been so obviously edited that anyone could guess it right away. Jen saw that Kwang Soo had crossed it out, but she was in a difficult position. If she agreed with him, she would be considered too compliant. If she objected, she was afraid of hiring the wrong person. Kwang Soo seemed to read her mind. He hoped Jen would consider it for the common good of the salon. Kwang Soo believed that each employee represented the image of the salon, like a dermatologist with rough skin or a fashion salesperson who wore sweatpants every day. He affirmed that he didn't discriminate against fat people, but only objected to the strange way of dressing. Kwang Soo thought that the girl dressed too childishly and lacked the necessary professionalism. At that time, Suri proactively shared the reason she had been fired from her previous job. She had once been rejected by a customer because of her overweight appearance. Suri had been complained about and criticized. However, she remained optimistic and persistently pursued her favorite career. In the end, Suri's interview result received 1 yes vote and 1 no vote. The director looked at the form and hesitated for a long time. She didn't know whether to sign it or not. According to the rules, 2 no votes would immediately disqualify the candidate. However, when she saw Suri's tearful eyes, the director inexplicably softened. Whether it was due to reason or emotion, she finally signed the yes box. The director decided to hire Susie directly. She happily left the salon right after that. At that point, there was only 1 last candidate. Everyone guessed that person wouldn't come again. It was getting dark, and Kwang Soo planned to post the next next recruitment notice the following day. At that moment, a girl who looked like a ghost quietly knocked on the door and entered the salon. The director asked her if she was here for an interview. The girl didn't say anything, just nodded slightly. The director asked the girl to introduce herself, but the girl stuttered for a long time before she could say the word Gi-bum. The group looked at the clumsy girl in surprise. They asked Gi-bum if there was anything else she wanted to say. She said she was a fan of Kwang-soo. Gi-bum wanted to learn hairdressing from this teacher. Then she took out a practice mannequin and asked Kwang-soo to sign it. Kwang-soo felt that Gi-bum was his fan and immediately wanted to hire her. On the contrary, the director saw that Gi-bum was too shy, not even daring to look at others when talking. Her gloomy personality and incoherent words make her not know how to politely refuse. Unexpectedly, Jen was the first person to agree to hire this girl. It turned out that from the moment the interview began, Jen had noticed Gi-bum. She felt something special about this shy girl. Facing the elusive Gi-bum, Jen felt an indescribable excitement. Just as the salon was about to open for a trial, the conflict between Jen and Kwang-soo flared up again. A flower shop next door gave the director a bonsai to celebrate the opening of the new salon. Suddenly, a man rushed from behind and picked up the flower shop owner in the middle of the crowd. Jen thought she was kidnapped, so she turned around and kicked the man, causing him to fall to the ground. The beautiful landing moment surprised everyone in the salon and made them admire her. Unexpectedly, the man who was kicked was the husband of the owner of the flower shop next door. Jen panicked and apologized profusely. She didn't expect things to turn out so awkward. Everyone blamed Jen for acting hastily, but looking at the man, she didn't trust him. Kwang-soo immediately called the police, making Jen extremely angry. The hair salon officially opened, but the first day was unexpectedly gloomy. Although there were a few walk-in customers, the low revenue made the director worried. As soon as she got home, she kept calling customers until her voice was hoarse. However, only a few customers agreed to come back to use the salon's services. As for Jen, as the leader of the motorbike group, she only needed to send a message and customers would come. Jen only needed to post a message in the group and the members would flock to the salon. However, there were also people who came even though they had no hair. He came just to flatter the group leader. Kwang-soo was competitive, and seeing everyone having customers made him impatient. He intended to call his regular customers, but all of them were unreachable. As Kwang-soo's assistant, Gi-bum was also worried when he saw that her teacher had no customers. If no one came, Kwang-soo would have to pay her out of his own pocket. Gi-bum wanted to help, but she had social phobia and was not good at speaking. Gi-bum planned to imitate other salons. She took flyers to distribute to attract customers. However, as soon as they arrived at the crowded area, the crowd made Gi-bum extremely nervous. She held the flyer and stood in one place, trembling, not daring to approach anyone. Suddenly, a man walked up, holding the flyer, and asked Gi-bum if she worked at the Butterfly Hair Salon. After finding out, he volunteered to help Gi-bum distribute flyers throughout the neighborhood. Gi-bum was worried that the man would ask for her money after distributing them, so she quickly ran back to the salon. But the man turned back, making her think he came to demand her money. The man didn't understand anything when he heard Gi-bum's voice, which was as small as a mosquito's buzz. It turned out that the reason he helped distribute flyers was because the director was his relative. This made Gi-bum and Soo-ri both feel uncomfortable because it was no different from relying on relationships. The salon had already been struggling with few customers, and now taking in Muyul made everyone even more worried. Everyone was afraid that if there were no customers, someone would be fired sooner or later. The more worried they were, the more likely they were to make mistakes. Soo-ri accidentally knocked over Jen's toolbox. Jen yelled angrily. She called Soo-ri a damn fat girl, which surprised everyone. At the same time, Gi-bum met a customer who was also from her hometown. Before leaving the salon, the customer invited Gi-bum to have a meal together. Thinking it was just a courtesy, the next day she unexpectedly received a real invitation. Gi-bum was confused and didn't know how to react. Jen advised her to go meet him. Soo-ri said that the person was friendly and handsome, so there was nothing to worry about. The director told Gi-bum to go and try the food, considering it an opportunity for her to learn more about the customer. To help Gi-bum make an impression, Kwang-soo gave her a wavy hairstyle. Jen also did her makeup meticulously. She transformed Gi-bum into a beautiful, radiant girl. Everyone was surprised by her new look. Muyul also smiled happily. He advised Gi-bum not to be sad anymore. She had to be confident and keep smiling. At the appointed time, Kwang-soo took Gi-bum to the restaurant. She wanted to run away again. Thanks to Kwang-soo's encouragement, Gi-bum finally dared to get out of the car. When she arrived at the restaurant, she thought she would have a private date, but it was a meeting of fellow countrymen. The constant questions scared Gi-bum, who had social phobia. Gi-bum was confused and didn't know how to answer. She made everyone lose interest. Gradually, they ignored Gi-bum. The guest who had invited Gi-bum also turned to serve someone else. She wanted to leave but didn't dare to say anything. Gi-bum had to sit still and drink alone. When she went to the bathroom, she accidentally dropped her phone in the toilet. Gi-bum quickly took it out and wiped it dry. She just hoped that that her phone was still working. It was a new phone, but as she feared, it couldn't turn on at all. Ji-bum sadly left the restroom. Everyone started to disperse. A fellow countryman invited Ji-bum to go sing karaoke. When she refused, he immediately told her that she had to pay 20,000 won in membership fees. She was shocked that she had just had a meal and was being asked for money. After paying, Ji-bum had no money left in her pocket. She was truly penniless. On her way home, Ji-bum wanted to borrow some money from him for her taxi fare, but she didn't dare ask. She walked down the street. Ji-bum was drunk and lost in the middle of a crowded street. Almost desperate, she saw a phone booth on the side of the road. Ji-bum used the paid listener function to call Mu-yeol for help. Her voice was urgent and trembling, telling Mu-yeol her current location. While waiting, Ji-bum unexpectedly met a regular customer of the salon. The generous woman offered her a bottle of digestive aid. Just as the two were sitting and talking, Mu-yeol arrived, looking worried. The guest thought they were on a date and quickly found an excuse to leave. Mu-yeol was surprised to learn that Ji-bum remembered his phone number. Ji-bum did not reply. She only remembered the moments they had spent together before. When Mu-yeol was about to stand up and leave, Ji-bum suddenly grabbed his hand. Ji-bum said with a trembling voice that she thought she liked him. Ji-bum really liked Mu-yeol. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. The two looked at each other, confused, speechless. Finally, Mu-yeol spoke. Mu-yeol apologized because he felt uncomfortable being her boyfriend. He said he could not date someone who had never been in love before. The first confession of a girl who was afraid of society ended in chaos. When Ji-bum got home, she deeply regretted her own rashness. She was nervous about meeting Mu-yeol again. Ji-bum didn't know how to face him anymore. Before she could calm down, she saw Mu-yeol appear in front of the hair salon. Ji-bum wanted to hide, but the salon was as small as a palm, and there was no room. Just as Mu-yeol entered, the phone at the front desk suddenly rang. It was the security company calling to report that the alarm bell in the salon was ringing. Mu-yeol hurriedly went inside to check the salon's situation. Seeing no one, he turned back to the company to tell them that the door was open but empty. At that moment, Ji-bum, afraid of making a big deal out of it, had to stand up. The sudden action startled Mu-yeol when he saw her standing in front of him. After confirming with the security company that there was no problem, Mu-yeol hung up. He quickly left before the others entered the salon. Ji-bum greeted everyone hesitantly. She even blurted out a compliment about the beautiful weather. Everyone knew that today the fog was so thick that they couldn't see the road. Realizing that she had misspoken, Ji-bum blushed and hurriedly ran straight to the bathroom. At this time, they started to gossip about Ji-bum's date the day before. She secretly pressed her ear against the bathroom door to listen to what everyone was saying. When she heard the word embarrassing, Ji-bum thought that everyone was talking about confessing. She panicked and ran out to face the group with a face that was both shy and angry. Jen thought that the date did not go well, so Ji-bum ran away like that. She comforted Ji-bum that there were still many good men, so there was no need to be sad. Ji-bum forced a smile and affirmed that she would forget him and not care anymore. However, she did not expect Mu-yeol to be a busybody. Mu-yeol frowned when he heard that. He knew right away that Ji-bum had misunderstood everything. Mu-yeol tried to signal her to stop talking, but Ji-bum kept talking. She blamed the confession as a joke, saying it was tactless and offensive. Mu-yeol had no choice but to interrupt before the matter was exposed to everyone. He winked repeatedly. Ji-bum finally realized that he had misunderstood. However, the failed confession still haunted her, causing her to avoid Mu-yeol every day. Whenever she saw him, Ji-bum would find an excuse to leave immediately. Right now, Jen was having trouble with a customer who was in a bad mood. The woman asked to have her long, loose hair cut very short. Jen suspected that she was angry with her husband, which was why she made such a hasty decision. She gently advised her not to cut it too short because it would be difficult to get used to the new image. But the woman firmly insisted that the hair was hers and wanted to change it. After finishing the new hairstyle, the woman smiled awkwardly and left the salon. She hurried into the restroom next door and looked at herself in the mirror in confusion. Knowing that her husband liked long hair, the woman would definitely be scolded if she cut it off. As she predicted, when the salon was about to close, the woman's husband rushed in angrily. As soon as he entered the door, the man loudly asked who Jen was in the salon. The director calmly came out to talk to him and asked him if there was anything he needed to clarify. Seeing the husband angry, the woman immediately ran out to stop him and tried to mediate. The man blamed Jen for cutting his wife's hair so short. Jen replied calmly. She said that the woman had asked for it. Unexpectedly, the woman suddenly turned her back and said that Jen had cut it without asking. The situation became chaotic. The director had to soften her tone and apologize to calm the situation. The man was angry for more than an hour before he took his wife out of the salon. Ji-bum's mother traveled all the way from her hometown to Seoul to visit her daughter after many days apart. As soon as she saw her daughter, she quickly pulled Ji-bum to see the hometown specialties that Ji-bum's mother brought. Before she could open all the bags, the exhaust system in the salon suddenly activated. The director ran over in panic, afraid that the strong smell of the specialties would affect the customers. Ji-bum hurriedly took her mother to the break room to avoid disturbing others. After arranging everything, Ji-bum found the director and said that her mother wanted to see her privately. As soon as the director entered the room, the strong smell of food hit her nose. In front of her was a table full of hometown dishes, all of which were strong-smelling and spicy. The director tried to smile politely, but her face could not hide her misery. Ji-bum's mother thought that the director liked them, so she excitedly introduced each dish. Not stopping there, Ji-bum's mother even used her hand to stuff a piece of shrimp cake straight into the director's mouth. The director's awkward expression at this moment was hard to describe in words. Ji-bum's mother still hadn't realized it. She immediately opened another jar of pungent pickled cucumbers. The exhaust system immediately turned on again. This time, the smell even spread to the main hall. Smelling the smell, Ji-bum immediately ran into the break room with a very panicked expression. Receiving the director's signal, she quickly closed the kimchi jar tightly. Ji-bum's mother looked around and saw that no one was there. She immediately wondered why she didn't call everyone in. That seemingly unintentional remark seemed to blame the director for exploiting the employee's labor. The director could only smile awkwardly and explain that the hairdressing profession was busy all day long. Then she found an excuse to sneak out of the break room to avoid the awkward situation. The awkwardness didn't stop there. Ji-bum's mother said she wanted to get her hair done before leaving. Ji-bum was stunned because she knew that in her hometown, getting a perm was 30,000 won at most. At this salon, the cheapest price was already 120,000 won. If Ji-bum didn't stop her mother, she would definitely nag Ji-bum all the way home. Ji-bum wanted to use the excuse of having to make an appointment to stop her mother from getting her hair done at the salon, but her mother said that she had time, so it was okay to wait a long time. Ji-bum's mother also said that it would be rude to the salon to leave right away. Anyway, she should spend a little to show her appreciation before leaving. While Muyol was washing Ji-bum's mother's hair, she kept asking about this and that. The constant barrage of questions made Ji-bum, who was sitting next to her, feel extremely awkward. Meanwhile, Jen, who was free, went into the break room to chat with the director. The two of them quietly discussed the contrasting personalities between Ji-bum and her mother. One person was shy and spoke softly. The other was cheerful and overly noisy. This obvious contrast made them feel surprised and a little amused. When the director was about to pick up the food, the strange smell made her think the food was spoiled. At the same time, Ji-bum's mother's hair curling was almost completed after many steps. After Ji-bum washed her mother's hair, she stood up to pay and leave. When calculating the bill, the director was embarrassed, not knowing how much to charge. Ji-bum's mother firmly said to charge the correct price. Don't lower the price because they were acquaintances. The director had to reduce the price by half, but her face still couldn't hide her embarrassment. As soon as Ji-bum left the salon, her mother complained that getting her hair done was both expensive and not pretty. Ji-bum remained silent and didn't argue. She just quietly went back to the break room to clean up the dishes. When looking into the trash can, Ji-bum saw that the food her mother brought had been thrown away by everyone. Everyone wondered why she didn't call her mother, but Ji-bum just silently avoided it. The truth was that for the past 20 years, Ji-bum had never called her mother, because that woman was not her biological mother, but only her stepmother. Even though she didn't give birth to Ji-bum, she still silently sacrificed herself, never once complaining. Regardless of the distance, the stepmother traveled from the countryside to the city just to visit her daughter. She even waited for Ji-bum to finish her night shift. The stepmother wanted to see if her daughter was okay where she lived. Seeing the empty refrigerator, she immediately blamed Ji-bum for not knowing how to take care of herself. Then, the stepmother rearranged each dish she brought and neatly placed it inside the refrigerator. Ji-bum was moved and choked up. She took her stepmother to the bathroom to hide her tears. But when it was time to go to bed, Ji-bum was confused because her house was too small and there was no place to lie down. There was only one small bed in the room, so cramped that she couldn't breathe. Her stepmother told her to sleep in the same bed, but Ji-bum insisted on sleeping on the floor. In the end, she still refused to give in and pulled her daughter to squeeze onto the bed. In the middle of the night, when Ji-bum wanted to go out, she was hugged tightly by her sleeping stepmother. At that moment, she clearly felt the warmth from that silent woman. For the first time in her life, Ji-bum felt her heart soften because of the boundless maternal love. The next morning, when she saw her stepmother off, she intended to dust Ji-bum's shirt. After only a few light dustings, her stepmother hurriedly urged her to go to work or she would be late. Ji-bum stood watching her mother's figure gradually disappear behind the car that had disappeared from the road. On the way to work, she felt a surge of emotion welling up inside her. When she went to the guest room to put her things away, Ji-bum found an envelope in her bag. She opened it and was shocked to realize that her stepmother had secretly put it there early this morning. It was living expenses, the money her mother always secretly left after each visit. Unable to hold back any longer, Ji-bum burst into tears. The overwhelming emotions made her stomach ache. Muyol hurriedly took her to the hospital. He was worried when he saw Ji-bum pale. In the car, Ji-bum couldn't stop sobbing. Her tears kept falling silently. Lying on the IV, Gi-bum recalled every moment of the 20 years with her mother. When she saw Muyol enter, she quickly pulled the blanket over her. Gi-bum didn't want anyone to see her weep. Muyol sat down next to the bed. He gently comforted her and advised her not to blame herself. Gi-bum let out a sob. She was ashamed because she hated it when her mother came to the salon to see her. Gi-bum hated it when her stepmother brought smelly food and stayed at her house overnight. But what about the stepmother? Not a word of complaint. She just left quietly. Before leaving, the stepmother left money for her daughter. She wanted her to live a more fulfilling life. Muyol comforted her that if his mother did that, he would probably feel troubled too. Hearing that, Gi-bum whispered that the stepmother was not her biological mother, but she was always very good to her. Gi-bum also wanted to be called mom, like other children, but she herself could not. Gi-bum hated her shy, timid personality and thought herself was terrible. At this point, Gi-bum took her hand out of the blanket, making Muyol think she needed a handshake. He immediately held Gi-bum's hand, but she only intended to take a tissue to wipe her tears. Muyol was embarrassed. He quickly took the tissue and gave it to Gi-bum with a red face. After returning to the hair salon, Muyol told everyone about Gi-bum's condition. It turned out that Gi-bum not only had stomach cramps, but also chronic malnutrition. After finishing the IV, she used the money her stepmother left to pay the hospital bill. When she got home, Gi-bum looked at the box of food her mother had prepared. She choked up and couldn't hold back her tears. For the first time in her life, Gi-bum took the initiative to call her stepmother in a gentle voice. She said that she didn't really like pickled cucumbers, but Gi-bum wanted her mother to make another kimchi. Hearing that, her stepmother asked if she could bring radish kimchi. The father curiously asked who his wife was calling. She just smiled and said their daughter wanted to eat kimchi. That bright smile was a rare moment of happiness that her stepmother had had in many years. After hanging up, Gi-bum gently changed her mother's name in the contact list to Mom. She felt relieved, as if a burden had been lifted from her soul. The next day at work, Suri called Gi-bum over and gave her a box of prepared fresh milk. When Kwang-soo entered the salon, he also gave Gi-bum a small handbag. Everyone gathered around curiously to look. It turned out to be a box of nutritional supplements. After learning that Gi-bum was malnourished, Kwang-soo bought it himself to give to her. Faced with everyone's concern, Gi-bum could only smile happily. The saying, "If you're not shy, the one who's shy is someone else," had come true. The once shy girl had gradually learned to open her heart and accept love. At that moment, a woman suddenly walked into the butterfly hair salon. Her radiant demeanor and charming way of speaking surprised everyone. It turned out that she was Kwang-soo's ex-girlfriend and was accidentally introduced by an acquaintance. Her appearance quickly aroused the curiosity of everyone in the salon. Everyone guessed that she came to find Kwang-soo. Perhaps she wanted to rekindle their old love. Meanwhile, Kwang-soo was hiding in the break room with a tense expression. Jen walked in. She called him out to serve the customer who had made an appointment earlier. Kwang-soo quickly made an excuse that he was not feeling well to refuse responsibility. Jen looked at his strange appearance. She began to suspect something. Although she was suspicious, Jen still left the break room to avoid causing more tension. Kwang-soo, on the other hand, bowed his head dejectedly. He knew that avoiding for a while would not be possible for life. Director Do's appearance was like a final blow that left Kwang-soo unable to retreat. Because Kwang-soo was his regular hairstylist, this time he was forced to take direct action. Kwang-soo mustered up all his courage and walked to the hairdressing station. He tried to stay calm despite his trembling hands and feet. However, when facing his ex-girlfriend, Kwang-soo became even more awkward and clumsy. Trying to hide his confusion, he looked at Director Do and asked about the real estate business situation. The irrelevant question left both Director Do and the employees in the salon bewildered. In the end, Kwang-soo and his ex-girlfriend still had to face each other. Although he tried to avoid it, the moment he faced it made him even more flustered. His ex-girlfriend took the initiative to speak first. She greeted him gently and then returned to the hairdressing chair. Kwang-soo had no other choice. He had to tell Gi-bum to use shampoo number 5 to stall for time. Shampoo number 5 was the secret code that Kwang-soo used in emergency situations. Jen couldn't help but be curious. She immediately asked about the relationship between the two of them. The woman calmly replied that she had dated Kwang-soo for a while. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere in the salon immediately fell into an awkward silence. Kwang-soo shyly hid in the bathroom for more than an hour before daring to show his face. Only when he knew that his ex-girlfriend had left did he breathe a sigh of relief and return to work. The next morning, Jen received an appointment from a customer with a very familiar name. When she saw the name of the person who made the appointment, she glanced at Kwang-soo with a strange look. It turned out that his ex-girlfriend was a big customer who had ordered 8 hair packages. That meant she would come back to the salon at least 8 more times. Looking at the clock and seeing that the appointment time was almost up, Kwang-soo decided to sneak out of the salon again. But it was too late. His ex-girlfriend had already walked into the salon with a friendly smile. She greeted Kwang-soo comfortably. His ex-girlfriend even brought the rice cakes he used to like to eat. That night, Kwang-soo Kwang-soo called Jen sadly. He drank and confided in her everything. In his drunken state, Kwang-soo told her about how his girlfriend had cruelly dumped him. Kwang-soo had known his ex-girlfriend at a hairdressing school. After hearing the story, Jen felt a deep sense of pity. The next day, when Kwang-soo's ex-girlfriend finished getting her hair done and was about to leave, Jen stopped her. She said that the hairdressing skills at the salons were not that different, and Jen didn't have to go to Butterfly Salon if it made others feel awkward. She gently advised that frequenting it would make Kwang-soo uncomfortable. However, his ex-girlfriend had really wanted to get back together since she met Kwang-soo again. That night, she took the initiative to meet Kwang-soo privately to explain her feelings. The next morning, Jen called Kwang-soo back and asked him in a sarcastic tone. She asked him why this woman canceled the hairdressing package if he had gotten back together with his ex-girlfriend. Kwang-soo answered frankly that he had met her again but refused to get back together. Although Jen still grumbled and was annoyed on the outside, she was secretly happy on the inside because the person she had secretly loved for so long had accidentally lost all emotional ties. At the same time, another story was starting from a memory of 5 years ago. It turned out that Soo-ri had feelings for a scholarly boy named Jun-hee. Right on the first day of school, she was attracted to his gentle appearance. Even though his skinny body was far from her ideal model, Soo-ri still fell in love. In order to narrow the weight gap with the boy, she started a strict diet. Soo-ri was determined to confess to Jun-hee only when she really changed her appearance. However, the ideal is always beautiful, but reality is extremely cruel. Even though Soo-ri thought of every way, the result was still not as expected. Unexpectedly, after just a simple meal, Jun-hee and her younger sister became lovers. From then on, Soo-ri often witnessed the two being intimate with each other. Even though she appeared calm on the outside, she always felt disappointed inside. That short-lived joy ended when the younger sister discovered Jun-hee's name on the mannequin. From then on, the relationship between the sisters began to crack. Even though they tried to act normal on the outside, Soo-ri, as usual, wanted to try a piece of her younger sister's black bean noodles but was refused. She blamed her sister for not having a clear goal and always changing erratically. Even when choosing food, she was not decisive, which made her sister very upset. After that, the younger sister moved out to live with a friend to avoid facing Soo-ri every day. One day, after work, Soo-ri saw Jun-hee sitting drunk in front of her house. It turned out that her younger sister had broken up with Jun-hee but did not tell him the reason. That made Jun-hee confused and did not understand what was going on in her heart. He said that he had lost his lover but did not want to lose his friend, Soo-ri, too. Soo-ri gently placed her hand on Jun-hee's head. An indescribable feeling rose in her heart. Soo-ri remembered the promise she made years ago to be the one in charge of his hair for the rest of her life. But now, the one who created this situation was her. Who would have thought that Soo-ri was the one who caused everything to fall apart beyond repair? She hated her shyness and lack of courage that prevented Soo-ri from expressing her feelings. If she had been brave enough to say she loved him, perhaps her life would have taken a different turn. Returning to the empty house, Soo-ri looked at everything familiar and felt cold. People often say that husband and wife should not stay angry at each other overnight, especially sisters. The next morning, Soo-ri took the initiative to call her younger sister to make an appointment at the hair salon at 8 o'clock. She said that it had been a long time since she had done her sister's hair. Soo-ri hoped to have a chance to make up for it. She also secretly asked her colleagues to act out a small play to clear up the misunderstanding. When her sister entered the hair salon, Moo-yeol deliberately asked out loud the name of Ji-bum's mannequin. Ji-bum's unfinished cooperation made his sister curiously look around the practice room. Seeing that all the dummies had names, his sister was surprised and didn't understand why. Moo-yeol explained in detail that the hairdressing profession requires treating the dummies as real customers. The names of the dummies are changed periodically to get used to different types of customers. After hearing the explanation, the younger sister seemed to understand something about profession and her sister. Their sisterly relationship was restored from then on. The two happily went out for a late-night snack together. After lunch, Gi-bum accidentally saw Moo-yeol teasing a female customer. She couldn't concentrate on her work because she was too focused on the conversation in front of her. While serving, Gi-bum made many mistakes that Jen noticed and called her out to chat. Jen asked gently. Finally, Gi-bum told a story about a friend who secretly liked someone. She said that the guy once filled the refrigerator and brought medicine for her friend when she was sick. After listening, Jen immediately affirmed that it was clearly a sign of someone liking someone. However, Gi-bum sadly added that her friend had confessed but was rejected outright. Jen asked again in doubt, and Gi-bum awkwardly affirmed that it was just someone else's business. Jen smiled because she knew clearly that Gi-bum was hinting at her own business. At this time, everyone went to the break room. Jen told the story in a gentle voice. Soo-ri didn't know anything, so she reacted harshly. She directly scolded the guy in the story. The sentence seemed unintentional but made Gi-bum choke up. She didn't dare to look up. Gi-bum felt stupid for not knowing how to hide her emotions at the right time and place. Muyol shyly retreated from the break room, making excuses to avoid the awkward situation. That afternoon, Gi-bum saw her fellow countryman come to the hair salon as usual. She suddenly had the idea to take advantage of jealousy to test Muyol's heart. The night before, Gi-bum had read a little trick online about testing feelings. She started to show excessive intimacy with her fellow countrymen. Muyol washed the customer's hair but kept glancing at Gi-bum suspiciously. The jealousy effect began to take effect. Muyol's eyes were clearly different. However, Gi-bum's plan was quickly completely ruined by her fellow countryman. He innocently reminded her to come early to attend the next meeting of the Fellow Countrymen's Association. When Muyol heard that, he immediately understood that he had just been teased by Gi-bum. Even though he knew that, he still couldn't hide his joy and secret hope. That night, after work, Jen took everyone out to a singles bar. Muyol couldn't sleep all night looking at the group photo. He found an excuse to text Gi-bum to find a reason to approach him, but got no response. He called repeatedly, but the other end of the line was still just a hopeless ringing sound. Lying alone in the middle of the night, Muyol recalled every moment with Gi-bum. He realized that his heart had silently fluttered for this silly girl. The next morning at work, Muyol deliberately asked Gi-bum why she didn't answer the phone last night. Gi-bum made an excuse that he didn't hear because the bar was too noisy to hide his feelings. That afternoon, it suddenly rained. There was only one umbrella left in the hair salon. The two of them walked under the small umbrella. The distance between them grew closer and closer. Muyol gently put his arm around Gi-bum's shoulder. He quietly took her home. Before parting, Muyol couldn't hide his feelings. He asked Gi-bum if she still liked him. Gi-bum replied that she didn't like him anymore, making Muyol stand still in the rain. He sighed regretfully. Muyol said that this time he might have been a beat too late. Gi-bum panicked and explained that it was just a joke. She still liked him. Muyol chuckled. He asked Gi-bum again if she agreed to officially date Muyol. Despite the rain still falling outside, their hearts were as gentle as spring. The next morning, when Gi-bum woke up, she thought that everything last night was just a dream. She couldn't believe whether what had just happened was real or just her imagination. While she was getting ready to change clothes to go to work, Muyol suddenly handed Gi-bum an umbrella. Gi-bum was confused and didn't have time to react when Muyol gently took her hand. That moment made Gi-bum realize that everything was real, not an illusion. The girl who was afraid of society and had never been in love before, now courageously stepped into love. After a month of dating, Gi-bum took the initiative to give her boyfriend her first kiss. But Muyol did not stop there. He felt that he was too immature. Muyol thought that such a relationship was just like elementary school students falling in love. Gi-bum thought that the two of them had not known each other long enough. She herself was not ready. Muyol seriously asked when he could take the next step in love. Gi-bum hesitantly replied that it would be 3 months. Then she shyly ran home. Muyol stood in the middle of the street with a distorted face. He did not know whether to be happy or sad. As soon as she got home, Gi-bum opened her phone and Googled it to learn about love. She realized that love was not just about emotions, but also about the art of behavior. Since entering the salon, Muyol had always kept an eye on Gi-bum, not taking her eyes off her. This made Gi-bum, who had social phobia, feel very embarrassed. While everyone was having dinner, she accidentally mentioned love. The question, "How long after dating can you go to bed?" made the whole table go silent. Muyol was speechless, unable to utter a single word. He quickly stepped in to salvage the situation. Muyol made an excuse that Gi-bum had been drinking and was talking nonsense because she couldn't control herself. On the way home, Muyol kept blaming himself for putting pressure on her. He just wanted their relationship to progress a little faster, but he didn't expect it to backfire. Muyol honestly said that love was between the two of them. He advised Gi-bum not to ask other people about their relationship in the future. If he had any concerns, Gi-bum should ask Muyol directly so that the two of them could resolve them together. Even though Muyol had told her to, he didn't see Gi-bum home that night. Gi-bum thought Muyol was angry with her, but he just said he was too tired. After the bus left, Gi-bum anxiously opened his phone to check for signs of anger. The next morning, Gi-bum was still the first to arrive at the hair salon, as usual. When Muyol arrived, she immediately took out the hairdryer to dry her hair to test reaction. Because the 2 mornings before, Muyol had suddenly hugged Gi-bum from behind. However, this morning, she waited forever without seeing that hug return. Just as Gi-bum was looking for him, Muyol walked out of the dressing room. She clearly noticed the distance in his eyes. To ease the atmosphere between the two, Gi-bum took the initiative to ask Muyol to go to the movies. Even though they were lovers, the two sat silently like strangers. On the way home, Gi-bum was absent-minded. Her mind was blank like a person who had lost his soul. She wondered if she had done something to hurt Muyol. Actually, Muyol wasn't angry. He was just worried that he would be too proactive and scare Gi-bum. Because their personalities were completely opposite, Muyol chose to take a step back. He was afraid that if he was too aggressive, Gi-bum wouldn't adapt and would retreat. Gi-bum was afraid that she would become weak if she got too used to Muyol's attention. But when he was cold towards her, Gi-bum felt confused. At this moment, she understood what Muyol had said about people who had never been in love. Then Muyol gently said that the most important thing in love is comfort. He didn't want to set restrictive rules. Muyol just wanted the two of them to understand and respect each other. As for Ji-bum, after the sharing from him, she also resolved the knot in her heart. Ji-bum quietly closed his eyes. Muyol looked at a cute girl in front of him. He bent down and gave her a passionate kiss. The next day, while at the hair salon, the director suddenly left the salon in a hurry to rush home. Her 8-year-old youngest daughter was home alone with her male classmate. The reason the director was worried was because she had just heard about the rampant story of children falling in love early. She suddenly remembered the saying that boys and girls after the age of 7 should not sit close together. With endless thoughts, the director immediately left her work to return home. When she got home, she saw the two children playing checkers very well. The director breathed a sigh of relief. She felt that she was worrying too much, but she believed the data. The director intended to secretly observe, but was immediately discovered by the boy. She quickly avoided it and tried to change the topic. However, the director still felt uneasy when the two children were home alone. She immediately texted her eldest daughter, asking her to come back and help her mother look after her younger sister. But her eldest daughter was taking extra classes until 8 o'clock, so she couldn't come back yet. And this afternoon, she had an appointment with a customer, which made the director even more worried. While thinking of a solution, she suddenly came up with an idea to solve the problem gently. The director took the two children to buy snacks and watch a movie to relax. Meanwhile, at the salon, Suri was impatient because the customer had been waiting for more than an hour. It wasn't until the director returned that she quickly apologized to the customer. To ease the worries, the director decided to let the youngest daughter take extra classes. However, the little girl refused to go. She protested with tears in her eyes. The eldest daughter then gently comforted her. She advised her mother not to push her sister too hard. Because she was still young, mothers shouldn't put too much pressure on her studies. But the director remembered her own difficult past. She gave birth to his first child at 20. She got a bitter divorce at 23. Sometimes a person's life could collapse in just a moment. The director's words made her eldest daughter feel extremely heartbroken. She thought that because she was born, she had ruined her mother's life. That unintentional remark made the eldest daughter believe that her mother regretted having her. Meanwhile, the director suddenly received a call from her ex-husband. It turned out that the youngest daughter had called her father to complain about being forced to study too hard. She said that her mother didn't care about her feelings. She forced her to take extra classes that she hated. Her father also thought that since no one in their family was talented, studying was useless. Hearing this, the director was angry because he felt insulted as a mother. She loudly declared that if he thought she taught their daughter wrongly, then he should teach by himself. The father hurriedly explained that his daughter had called him, so he came over to see what was going on. At that moment, the biological father of the eldest daughter also appeared at the director's house. This situation made the atmosphere even more stifling and awkward. After a few greetings, the father and youngest daughter quickly drove away. It turned out that the eldest daughter wanted to live on her own and asked her father to help rent a house. The father came here only to discuss the eldest daughter's desire to be independent. After returning home, the director scolded her eldest daughter fiercely. The mother and daughter continued to argue, making the atmosphere even more tense. The angry director took her anger out on his innocent youngest daughter. The relationship between mother and two children made her feel more and more helpless. The next morning, the director called to remind the youngest daughter to remember to go to dance class. After saying goodbye to her classmate, the little girl sat in the car and cried. The youngest daughter really didn't want to learn ballet like her mother had always hoped. However, when she arrived at the ballet class and saw the beautiful, shimmering dance dresses, she suddenly felt curious and eager to try them on. When she got home, the youngest daughter happily told her mother about the new dance class she had joined. The director was somewhat relieved that she had solved her daughter's problem. However, the matter of her eldest daughter was still like an undercurrent that made her have a headache. At this time, the director felt helpless. She didn't know what to do. Even though the director was young and naive at that time, she couldn't abandon her child. As a small creature, the director couldn't bear to leave her first daughter. When the eldest daughter returned and saw her mother sleeping in her room, she was deeply moved, but still tried to hide her soft heart. Both mother and daughter were stubborn. Neither of them wanted to say anything gentle first. This situation was broken by the clever and lovely youngest daughter. Knowing that she could no longer pretend to sleep, the director pretended to have just woken up. The eldest daughter also used the excuse of running out of money on her credit card to talk to her mother. The director was not interested in the money, but in the easing of their relationship. She was relieved to realize that the distance between her and her daughter was narrowing. The next morning, the group went to the hair salon and an unexpected incident happened. On the wall of the salon was written the words, "School bully works here." The words were written in red paint and shocked everyone. everyone. The director immediately called the police to find the culprit who had disturbed the salon. When the police arrived and asked for statements from the staffs in the salon, Muyol took the initiative to step out and take full responsibility instead of getting anyone involved. He followed the police downstairs, leaving everyone shocked and bewildered. The director later knew the truth from Muyol's mother. It turned out that Muyol had previously been an excellent member of the soccer team. To train new players, seniors had often disciplined their juniors strictly. A new student from abroad did not understand this culture. He misunderstood it as school violence and reported it to the school. The incident was exaggerated by the press, putting pressure on the school to handle it. The soccer team was disbanded. Muyol was forced to drop out of school and permanently removed from his name. His chance to join the national youth team was gone. His future was completely ruined. Carrying that stain, Muyol felt that he was not worthy of Ji-bum. He decided to quit his job. Seeing that no one was holding him back, Muyol quietly left the salon. Before leaving, he harshly said goodbye, causing Ji-bum pain. Ji-bum did not expect that the person she loved would turn her back without any regret. Muyol actually could not bear to leave Ji-bum. He just had to. The wound from the past made Muyol feel that he did not deserve to love anyone. In the end, Muyol still left. He left Ji-bum alone with lingering sadness. Returning home in despair, Muyol was comforted by his mother with gentle words. He disappointedly asked her if he should leave this place to start over. Muyol thought that he had only made his mother ashamed. She could not face anyone, but his mother still believed that this was not the end of life. She told him that if it was really difficult, he should go back to work at her hair salon. Muyol stubbornly refused. He did not want to rely on his mother to continue living. Muyol felt that he did not deserve to be forgiven after what had happened. In fact, if he hadn't been incited, he wouldn't have wanted to hit anyone. On this side, the police arrested the suspect who had written the sentence defaming the hair salon. This person was not the student who had been beaten by Muyol in the past. He hated Muyol because he believed that Muyol was the one who destroyed the soccer team. The life of the person who wrote that sentence was turned upside down, and his future completely collapsed. No one knew that he was the one who incited Muyol to beat friend. After leaving the police station, Muyol went to find the person who wrote the sentence. When he met him again after so many years, he didn't show any regret. On the contrary, the person who wrote the sentence blamed Muyol. If he had been more forceful at that time, the student would have kept quiet. Muyol remained calm. He refused to fight back despite his anger. In the following days, Muyol switched to a job delivering goods. Although the job was simple, his mood was always confused and empty. Not only did Muyol give up his beloved hairdressing job, he also left his lover. Those two things were very important to him, things he could not lose. Muyol was afraid that if he kept avoiding them, he would live in regret for the rest of his life. The hair salon was still operating normally, but lacked the familiar atmosphere. Everyone felt empty, as if they had lost something familiar. The next morning, when they arrived at work, the director announced that there was a new assistant. Suri curiously guessed whether it was a man or a woman. At that moment, the new assistant stepped into the hair salon. What surprised everyone was that Muyol had returned to work, but Ji-bum's emotional wound had not yet healed easily. The happy moments between the two had now completely disappeared. There was only the same work every day, like an emotionless cycle. When they got off work, Ji-bum and Muyol faced each other. The two were like strangers, no longer close. Muyol hated himself for not being strong enough to hold on to his love. Late at night, he quietly wiped the red paint that was still on the glass frame. At that moment, Muyol decided to bravely face everything. He sent a text message to apologize to the student who had been hurt in the past. After reading the message, the boy probably felt relieved. Ji-bum could only stand far away and watch Muyol's silent back. After work, Jen went to yoga class to relieve her mental pressure. When she left class, she accidentally ran into the man she didn't want to see. That person had been a haunting obsession that made her childhood full of dark fear. Jen panicked and tried to find a way to leave the building in an unstable mood. She was so flustered that she dropped her pencil and ran into the stairs. Fear surged up and Jen tripped. She ignored the pain in her leg and ran. Jen tried to escape from that place. Her heart was pounding because of the haunting memories. After going to the hospital to get bandaged, Kwang-soo came to pick Jen up and take her home. Back home, she began bossing him around, revealing her sharp-tongued nature. Jen kept ordering Kwang-soo to pour water, put pillows, and do as she wanted. Kwang-soo was speechless when faced with the sharp-tongued girl. At this moment, Jen suddenly wrapped a towel around her neck. Unexpectedly, the adventurous person was more afraid of yoga than any other sport. Kwang-soo teased her in the right place, causing Jen to immediately chase him out. Because of her broken leg, she had to take a day off work. Kwang-soo was also in charge of cooking for Jen, but facing her with her worries, Kwang-soo didn't ask much. After a week of rest, Jen started to go back to the hair salon. As usual, she thought the accident was over, but the past was not over yet. One day, when she saw the customer's leather shoes, memories flooded back. After seeing the shoes, Jen became scared and quietly went into the waiting room. She quickly found her makeup bag and grabbed a pencil to draw her eyebrows. Heavy makeup was the armor that helped Jen protect herself. At that moment, Suri approached to ask her how she was doing, but Jen responded coldly. She began to criticize Suri. Jen thought that there was no need to apologize to anyone. Being misunderstood, Suri was so upset that she could only bow her head in silence. When Kwang-soo walked in, Jen immediately left the break room without saying anything. That night, when Kwang-soo took her home, Jen revealed her childhood pain for the first time. Just looking at the leather shoes, she was scared because of the haunting memories of the past. Jen's uncle was a beast who had terrorized her throughout her childhood. Ironically, the next day that man appeared at the salon. Seeing her uncle, Jen immediately panicked and gave the job to Moo-yeol and left. She ran into the break room. Jen tremblingly took her makeup bag and started to draw her face. However, after only a few strokes, she stopped and decided to step out resolutely. Jen wiped off her makeup and took the initiative to cut his hair. Her emotions were surging, but Jen quickly suppressed them to keep calm. Her uncle said he liked Jen's pure look better than her sharp look yesterday. Faced with his blunt words, Jen no longer avoided him. Her eyes were full of challenge and responded strongly. Jen's actions made her uncle clearly feel the lurking danger. Even though her hands were holding the scissors tightly, she still did not do anything too extreme in the end. After finishing her haircut, her uncle hurriedly left the salon in extreme fear. The next morning, everyone in the salon was waiting for Jen to arrive with an anxious look. When she took off her glasses, the four of them sighed in surprise and regret. Only Kwang-soo kept a calm expression. He walked over to receive the bet. It turned out that the director thought that Jen had overcome her trauma yesterday. Everyone believed that she wouldn't wear makeup when she came to work today. But in the end, Jen still painted her face heavily, making everyone lose to Kwang-soo. Meanwhile, a customer happily walked out of the salon after getting her hair done. Unexpectedly, a tornado hit the door, causing her hair to fall apart immediately. The director looked at the heavy rain at this time. She was worried because there were no customers coming to the salon. The gloomy weather made the director's mood even more depressed. Jen suggested making scallion pancakes for everyone to eat together. At that moment, a female customer came in with a sad and tired face. The already quiet atmosphere became even heavier and more anxious. This customer wanted a hairstyle similar to Snow White's. Even though she had met many strange customers, Jen still felt something was unusual. At the same time, in the break room, everyone started preparing the ingredients for scallion pancakes. Suri looked annoyed and insisted on doing everything herself. At the same time, Jen's assistant was drying hair when he saw the customer's message. He quickly put down the dryer and ran into the break room to tell what had just happened. The gloomy message showed that the customer intended to leave this world. In that situation, Kwang-soo quickly reminded Jen to come back and do the customer's hair. Jen tried to ask and encourage the woman to stay strong. However, the customer's indifferent reaction made everyone even more suspicious. Jen checked the appointment history and realized that this person had come not long ago. That time, the customer was a tutor. She had boasted that she was getting married in the fall. Now that she had returned with the opposite mood, everyone guessed that the woman had encountered a heartbreaking incident. Everyone gathered around. Everyone was worried and thinking of ways to prevent her negative intentions. Kwang-soo thought this was a private matter. They couldn't do much. However, everyone knew that if they didn't take action, they would always live in remorse. If they saw bad news related to the customer later, they would all regret it for the rest of their lives. Everyone worked hard to hope the customer would feel the warmth around them. When her hair was done, Jen even offered to do her beautiful makeup. Everyone hoped that her radiant beauty would help the customer feel that life was worth living. They did everything they could with all their heart. The rest was the woman's choice between darkness and light. Looking at the customer's back as she left the salon, the group could only silently hope for peace. While cleaning, the assistant suddenly discovered an item that the customer had left behind. He immediately ran after her and called the woman to return it. When returning it, the assistant frankly said that he had accidentally read the message. He had had such negative thoughts before, but he thought of his parents. Thanks to her family and caring friends, the assistant got through that period. The woman quietly left, not knowing whether she would choose to live or let go. Not long after, Jen called everyone back to announce some hopeful news. The woman had changed her profile picture and appeared to be doing well. No one understood the meaning of the picture, but everyone was relieved that she was still alive. One day, at the hair salon, a man in a tight suit walked in. He stabbed Jen's assistant with scissors. No one understood what was happening. Everyone stood still in shock. The assistant did not resist, as if everything was within his plan. The two looked at each other for a long time. Then the man withdrew from the scene. The assistant collapsed after pulling the scissors out of his body. Blood was flowing everywhere. Moo-yeol immediately ran after the killer, tried to catch up with him. When he was about to catch him, Moo-yeol suddenly tripped because a drunk man was blocking the way. Meanwhile, the ambulance arrived at the salon at the call of the staff. The assistant, despite being injured, stubbornly refused to get in the ambulance to go to the hospital. He seemed to be afraid that if he was hospitalized, some secret would be revealed. The incident attracted attracted many curious people to gather and gossip. The assistant was forced into the ambulance, but still struggled to resist. The doctor saw that his condition was critical and immediately injected him with a sedative. At the hair salon, the police began to question everyone who was there that day. Although they tried to remember, no one had a clear impression of the killer's face. After failing to catch him, Muyol returned to the salon. The police quickly calmed him down. They emphasized that it was their responsibility. Inside the hospital, the assistant was still struggling. The doctor had to inject him with medicine to help him temporarily stabilize his unstable mental state. Then they began to prepare for the emergency surgery on the assistant. When they removed the clothes, everyone was stunned by the completely unexpected scene. Although they did not understand what was happening, the medical team quickly performed first aid. Only the assistant remained with a lifeless gaze, quietly under the surgical lights. When the surgery was completed, the nurse was confused about how to arrange the room. The ID card was a female, so she was confused about whether she was going to be in a female or male room. The next morning, the police found a photo of the suspect from the security camera. Seeing the unfamiliar face, everyone said they had never seen him before. At first, the director thought it was a random act of violence without purpose, but the police insisted that it was a deliberate and planned act. The camera showed that the killer had been in that area for many consecutive days. It seemed that he had scouted the location and chosen the time to attack. Suri believed that the assistant had been attacked in place of the person the perpetrator was actually targeting. The director agreed because the assistant's existence had always been vague. Muyol suddenly became the scapegoat in an unclear plot. Jen was also reviewing the camera footage and felt extremely uneasy. Even Kwang-soo's sudden appearance made her panic. Jen began to suspect that the real killer was targeting her. She discovered that the assistant's phone had been left in her personal locker. After work, the director and Suri went to the hospital to visit the injured assistant. They brought the phone along, hoping to cheer him up. When they entered the hospital room, they saw that the curtains were closed, making the air stuffy. The director immediately opened the curtains. Her actions caused other patients to gossip. Suri accidentally saw the medical record card, stating that the assistant's gender was female. The two of them sat in the car, stunned, unable to believe what they had just discovered. The director thought silently. She had never expected that the assistant had been a woman all this time. This fact confused both of them. Meanwhile, in the hospital, the assistant lay naked, silently enduring the suspicious gazes. In the end, she could only gently pull the curtains and huddle in silence. After returning to the hair salon, the director and Suri had not yet recovered from the incident. Neither Gi-bum nor Muyol knew anything about the assistant's true identity. However, there was no wall in the world that could block out the wind. In fact, Kwang-soo had known for a long time that the assistant was a girl. Except for him, everyone else had been unaware of this. The director curiously asked why Kwang-soo found out so early. He said that he had carefully observed the assistant's gait and body curves. Although he was suspicious, since this was a private matter, Kwang-soo was not comfortable talking about it. The director thought that as a colleague, she should have shared it clearly sooner. A week later, the assistant's health recovered and she was discharged from the hospital. The assistant put on her usual clothes and quietly left the hospital. Sitting on the bus, she quietly looked at the streets and thought about the future. Although the house was empty, the assistant knew that she still needed to continue living. The next morning, she still changed her clothes and walked on the familiar road. Finally, the assistant stood in front of the familiar butterfly hair salon. Her unexpected return surprised everyone in the salon. However, after a few seconds, everyone happily welcomed her back. The exposure of her identity did not affect her mood at work. The assistant was still as diligent and hardworking as before, supporting her colleagues, still helping Gi-bum get things when she couldn't reach them. That night, the director suddenly received a call from the police. It turned out that the perpetrator had confessed and told the whole truth. This didn't surprise the assistant too much because she had predicted it. The perpetrator was the assistant's younger brother, who had a complicated mentality. She waited for her family in front of the police station with a conflicted heart. Although she took the initiative to greet her mother, the assistant only received a strange look in return. No one in the family said anything, just silently drove away. Facing the separation, the assistant was not pessimistic because she had a support. The hair salon was the first place where the assistant could be true to herself. After a period of separation, Gi-bum and Muyol got back together. The two looked back at their memorable childhood photos. They shared bright hopes for the future. But when Muyol went to the bathroom, Gi-bum curiously picked up the phone. She saw a photo of him and his ex-girlfriend. When Muyol returned, Gi-bum didn't ask anything, but just quietly handed the phone back. Even though they were just ex-girlfriends, it was still a scar that was hard to erase for Gi-bum. In the following days, she always carried her feelings with her without saying anything. Muyol seemed to realize it, so he gently asked Gi-bum if there was anything she wanted to say. She was confused, wondering whether she should ask about that photo or not. In the end, Gi-bum only had enough courage to ask if Muyol loved her. Muyol hugged Gi-bum and softly said said that he loved her from the bottom of his heart. At that moment, Kwang-soo and Jen were going to buy cake and accidentally saw that scene. Because when Jen was sad, Kwang-soo jokingly asked if she liked Muyol, and Jen admitted. Kwang-soo immediately panicked. He was afraid that Jen would see Muyol, so he quickly covered her face. Jen was surprised by the strange action. Her heart was a little confused for no reason. Jen thought that Kwang-soo wanted to confess, but things didn't turn out like that. The heartless man in front of her only asked if the cake was delicious. Watching Gi-bum and Muyol's figures gradually disappear, Kwang-soo's series of confusing actions made Jen even more confused. At the same time, the director was also confused because he accidentally saw a photo of her ex-husband with someone else. When she got home, she immediately asked her eldest daughter if her father was seeing anyone new. The director even brought out the photo to ask, full of doubt and anxiety. Faced with her daughter's frank gaze, she suddenly choked up. After all, the director and her ex-husband were divorced. His business was his right. Ashamed of her actions, she quickly retreated from her daughter's room. Returning to her room, the director kept thinking about the photo of that hand. She muttered angrily because the other person did not post a photo of face properly. As for Suri, she also had her own thoughts in her heart. Seeing her sister diligently working out to lose weight, Suri guessed that she had a lover. Thinking about herself, she sighed because she had never been in love before. That night, for everyone in the hair salon, it was a long night of tossing and turning. The next morning, Muyol sneaked up behind Gi-bum, intending to surprise her. Unexpectedly, Gi-bum misunderstood and criticized him for betraying her in her dream last night. A woman came to the hair salon and was gagged by the hairdresser. Jen's sudden action made everyone in the salon confused. It turned out that while Muyol was being affectionate with Gi-bum, a female customer suddenly walked in. As soon as he saw the woman, he panicked and was at a loss for words. Unexpectedly, she followed his trail all the way to the hair salon. From then on, Muyol's expression became unnatural and very awkward. Jen secretly observed and paid close attention to all of these abnormalities. After asking about the situation, Jen discovered that this was an old love affair at the previous bar. Gi-bum was hurt, so she decided to help Muyol hide this love affair. Jen immediately took the customer from Kwang-soo to prevent the woman from approaching Muyol. But Kwang-soo was still stubborn and refused to give in, making her even more impatient. Unable to take the customer, Jen had no choice but to hold a hairdryer and wander around the salon. When the woman tried to approach to chat, she immediately intervened to stop the women. Jen quickly made up a story that this was a special service for new customers. Under that skillful act, the entire hairdressing process went smoothly. When it was time to pay, the woman still tried to find Muyol, but he had already disappeared. Muyol breathed a sigh of relief because he thought everything had passed peacefully. Unexpectedly, right after that, another customer came to see him. Unable to continue avoiding them, Muyol was forced to step out and face the truth. The woman expressed her longing for him, causing the atmosphere to immediately become tense. Gi-bum, who was standing nearby, heard the entire conversation between the two. Her expression immediately froze as if the world had collapsed. Jen urged Muyol to tell the truth so that Gi-bum would not misunderstand anymore. But Muyol didn't know where to start. He just kept silent and couldn't say anything. After work, Gi-bum turned away. She quietly got on the bus, tears streaming down her face. The next day, Muyol went to Gi-bum's new boarding house to try to comfort her. He helped Gi-bum assemble the newly bought table in the hope of easing the tension. Muyol asked why Gi-bum was crying because he honestly didn't know what he did wrong. Gi-bum also didn't understand why tears kept flowing and couldn't be held back. She admitted that she felt uneasy since seeing the photo of his ex-girlfriend. Muyol gently said that the past was in the past. He really cherished the person in the present. Sitting on a park bench, Muyol talked about the future of the two of them. He couldn't be sure of anything, but Muyol affirmed that their current feelings were genuine. In response to that sentiment, after work, Gi-bum took him to a place she had always wanted to visit. The woman in front of him was Gi-bum's biological mother, who had left when she was 1 year old. There weren't many words. Gi-bum just quietly bought some things and left with Muyol. Looking at the bag in hand, Muyol asked in surprise if that woman was her mother. Gi-bum nodded slightly. She had always known where her mother was, but had never dared to face her, not because of resentment, but because Gi-bum didn't know what to say after all these years. Even though she was abandoned by her biological mother, she still kept tolerance and understanding in her heart. Gi-bum believed that everyone had their own hardships that couldn't be easily explained. At the same time, Kwang-soo got bored and asked Jen out for a drink to vent. He tried to persuade Jen to give up Muyol. Jen looked at the straightforward guy in front of her and decided to tease him a little. Jen asked why she had to give up, which made Kwang-soo momentarily flustered. He used the excuse that dating in a hair salon was not a good idea and could easily cause trouble. Moreover, Kwang-soo had seen Muyol with a strange woman with his own eyes. Jen asked who that person was, but he said he didn't know. She said what if it was Muyol's mother? Seeing Kwang-soo trying to cover up, Jen knew he was jealous, so she stopped stop teasing him. She changed the subject and asked him directly why Kwang-soo thought Jen liked Mu-yeol so much. It turned out that he had mistaken their friendship for love. Jen could only sigh after hearing that. She couldn't believe this idiot was so slow. On the way home in the car, Jen thought back to the time when they met during their apprenticeship. From the first time they met, she was moved by the quiet Kwang-soo. To impress him, Jen even deliberately went bare-faced. She hoped he would notice her. When asked for his opinion, Kwang-soo simply said, "It's okay," which made Jen feel like she had been doused with water. She turned around and walked away. Jen felt both disappointed and blamed herself for being foolish. Sitting in the car, Kwang-soo gradually realized that he had said something wrong without realizing it. If nothing had happened, Jen would not have said that he was worse than artificial intelligence. Soon, the car arrived in front of the house, but Jen still refused to get out of the car. Kwang-soo wondered why, so he asked her why she still refused to get out of the car. After a while of struggling mentally, Jen took a deep breath and boldly confessed her feelings. She asked Kwang-soo to go on a date with her. He replied, "Okay," which made the driver sitting in front sigh. She had never seen such a heartless man. After getting out of the car, Jen still did not give up. She immediately invited Kwang-soo to come in to eat instant noodles. He hesitantly refused because he was afraid that eating late at night would cause indigestion. It was hard to tell whether Kwang-soo was heartless or really stupid. After being glanced at with contempt by the driver, he could only silently pay and get out of the car. Jen was extremely happy. Kwang-soo, on the other hand, was bewildered like a person who had lost his way. Because the past could not be changed, the only thing we could grasp was the present. The next day, during lunch, Jen accidentally spilled sauce on Kwang-soo's food. Everyone thought the two would have a heated argument like every time before. No one expected Kwang-soo to be calm. He even smiled gently. Kwang-soo's strange attitude surprised the whole restaurant and made everyone whisper. Normally, the two of them were like cats and dogs, but today their temperaments suddenly changed. No one knew that last night Jen had invited Kwang-soo to her house to eat instant noodles together. Their feelings had also quietly progressed in a more intimate direction. However, they did not reveal anything. They just silently kept a proper distance outside. Soo-ri curiously asked if they were dating, which made the director quickly change the subject. Because Soo-ri was about to be promoted, the director wanted her to take better care of her appearance. But Soo-ri indifferently thought that her fat body did not affect her skills. In fact, she and her younger sister had been fat since childhood. The gym teacher even advised the two sisters to practice wrestling to improve their health. Soo-ri and her sister had tried to lose weight to change the way people around them looked at them. Even though she had tried all kinds of diets, her weight still increased to a record level. Today's lunch was the last straw, making Soo-ri extremely upset. She looked at the last remaining cake, intending to eat it so as not to waste food. But Jen's sarcastic words touched Soo-ri's deep pride. Jen remarked, "So you do know how to protect the environment," which made Soo-ri feel insulted. Anger erupted. She stood up and pushed the skinny Jen to one side. Soo-ri screamed as if to tell the whole world that she was not someone to be bullied. Seeing the tense situation, everyone hurriedly pulled Soo-ri into the break room to calm down, while Kwang-soo gently helped Jen up. His eyes were full of worry and pity. Jen felt that Soo-ri was being unreasonable. Soo-ri felt like she was an abandoned child. Gi-bum sat timidly beside her, not knowing how to comfort her properly. Afterwards, the salon director went to see Soo-ri to discuss the fight the day before. She thought that after this incident, it would be difficult for everyone to continue working together. To put it bluntly, the director wanted to let Soo-ri quit her job to keep the peace in the salon. But this time she was determined not to give in. The director reluctantly went to Jen, hoping that she would be generous enough to let things go. She was worried that if Soo-ri filed a complaint with the Ministry of Labor, everyone would be dragged into unnecessary trouble. Jen suggested that both sides should reconcile with an apology so as not to make a big deal out of it. Soo-ri also agreed to apologize, but on the condition that Jen also apologized to her. She thought that Jen had said something offensive and needed to apologize first. This time, the two of them really gave the director a headache because neither of them would give in. But for the sake of the hair salon's peace, she had to agree to let them make peace. Even though they said they were apologizing to each other, the two still kept their tense and unapproachable expressions. Everyone who witnessed it didn't know how to intervene properly. Finally, Jen took the initiative to speak first. Soo-ri reluctantly apologized. The director quickly reconciled, thinking that this matter should end here. But Jen still felt unsatisfied because Soo-ri hadn't clearly stated the reason for her apology. Just when the atmosphere was tense, Mu-yeol quickly spoke up and said it was too late. He suggested that everyone go home and get some rest, and consider the storm to have passed. When they got home, Soo-ri was determined to lose weight to change, but still ate the unfinished fried chicken. Meanwhile, Kwang-soo invited Jen to dinner, and then invited her back to his house to talk. He used the excuse that his bed was bigger to invite Jen to come over and play comfortably. She happily agreed, but after finishing work, Kwang-soo couldn't sleep. He was used to sleeping alone. Kwang-soo couldn't stand the steady breathing of Jen next to him. Finally, he woke Jen up and asked her to go home that night. Faced with that strange request, Jen painfully left the familiar house. From that day on, every time the shop held a party, Jen made an excuse that she was busy to avoid them. She didn't want to see the heartless man who had hurt her heart. Muyol seemed to notice the change and asked Kwang-soo if he had argued with Jen, but Kwang-soo felt that he had done nothing wrong and really didn't understand women's hearts. Not only did he not apologize, he also went to find Jen to invite her out for the weekend. Jen coldly asked Kwang-soo knew what he had done wrong. He kicked her out of the house in the middle of the night, yet he still didn't realize how deeply he had hurt her. This left Jen in silence, with her frustration quietly bottled up inside. When it was time to get off work, Jen didn't even pay attention to Kwang-soo. She coldly drove away from the salon, and he just stood there, bewildered. Kwang-soo silently watched Jen's back. On the weekend, he diligently cleaned the restroom to forget the sadness that was piling up, but when lying alone on the bed, Kwang-soo still felt extremely empty. He accidentally discovered Jen's hairpin had fallen under the pillow. Kwang-soo wanted to take this opportunity to see her, return her belongings, and make amends, but as soon as he arrived, he saw Jen drinking alone to drown her sorrows. At this point, Kwang-soo still had no idea what Jen was angry about. He asked why, but Jen just coldly told Kwang-soo to think carefully. He really couldn't think of anything. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to come here in the middle of the night. Jen's emotions exploded. She thought Kwang-soo had looked down on Jen like a passerby. She felt humiliated when she was kicked out of the house in the middle of the night without mercy. If he really loved her, Kwang-soo would have kept Jen even if he had to stay up all night. The argument between the two accidentally affected the neighbors living next door. After hastily apologizing to the neighbors, Jen told Kwang-soo to go home and close the door. From then on, the two met at the salon and treated each other like strangers. But once the feelings were shared, it was hard to forget them. Jen's heart was still moved. That night, when Kwang-soo was at home, Jen suddenly took the initiative to come over. She told a story about a cat owner who had a severe allergy. The owner, because of loving cats, still persists in taking medicine every day to be with them. That story was Jen's way of silently but sincerely expressing her feelings. Actually, Kwang-soo had already prepared in advance. He had bought a new bed. Although he still couldn't give up the habit of sleeping alone, Kwang-soo still wanted to change for Jen. Love cannot avoid collisions and misunderstandings in life. As long as two people were determined, tolerant, and understanding, they would last. For the first time in life, Kwang-soo broke the rules and went out to do a customer's hair. Because the customer he had to serve that day was someone who was about to die, Gi-bum quietly put a bib on him. The patient took off his hat to reveal his bald head. After the treatments, she gently put on his head a wig that had been prepared in advance. Kwang-soo asked gently, wanted him to choose a hairstyle that he liked. He replied, Beckham hairstyle. This was the first time Kwang-soo didn't object but accepted the request. The old man tried to stay awake. He bravely overcame each wave of pain. He just hoped that before he passed away, he would still be able to maintain the best image for his family. It turned out that director Do had been diagnosed with lymphoma since March. When he received the bad news, he felt like he had been struck by lightning. His spirit was completely broken. At first, his wife and children were always by director Do's side, taking care of his every meal and sleep. But as time passed, their lives gradually returned to their old rhythm. His family treated him like a normal person. They no longer cared like before. Director Do gradually became lost. He didn't know what he wanted anymore. When he felt most lonely, Director Do could only bury himself in his real estate work. It was then that he met the hair salon director when she came to see the rental space. From that moment on, Director Do's life gradually had more hope. He started to regularly visit the hair salon and tried many things he had never dared to do. He had curled his hair for the first time, had got his ears pierced, and bought stylish clothes, just hoping to live his last days fully and brightly. Not only that, Director Do also learned to bake cakes to give to his family. He learned to play the piano and hoped to play for his family at the end of his life. At this time, Kwang-soo had also completed a special hairstyle for the special guest. Gi-bum handed him a mirror. Looking at his pale face in the mirror, Director Do tried to force a smile. Although he was tired and weak, he still felt relieved, as if he had just lifted a burden. Before Kwang-soo left, the director's wife insisted on paying more, but Kwang-soo only bowed his head. He insisted on accepting the exact price for the haircut. After they left, the director's wife called the photographer to the hair salon. The two took a final photo. They kept the moment together forever. The director's personal portrait became his masterpiece. One day, Mu-yeol held Gi-bum in his arms. Their eyes looked at each other silently and lovingly. He wanted to talk about the future because they had been dating for several months. Just when he was about to do something big, a phone call made him stunned. Gi-bum was startled. She was shocked because Mu-yeol suddenly lost his temper. Mu-yeol left Gi-bum's house in a daze. He was so gloomy that he didn't say a word. The next day after work, Mu-yeol went to the hair salon and helped Gi-bum get a new hairstyle. The reason he left in a hurry yesterday was because he had received an order to enlist in the army. Knowing that they would be separated for a long time, Mu-yeol wanted wanted to create one last memory with her. He said that what he wanted most was to spend the night with Gi-bum. Gi-bum didn't say anything and left silently. Her mind was in turmoil, with many thoughts. Gi-bum had never been in love before, so she didn't know how to react to that request. After a while of hesitation, Gi-bum went to Jen to ask for her sincere advice. Jen advised her not to agree. If they went ahead and did that, Gi-bum would have to bear the consequences himself. Moreover, Mu-yeol making that request before enlisting was really too much. If they really loved each other and wanted to go ahead with that, they should wait until after he was discharged. However, things took an unexpected turn. The next day when Gi-bum came to the salon, Jen took the initiative to look for her. She admitted that yesterday she was in a turmoil and said the wrong things. Jen thinks that the important thing is not when to do it. The core is whether Gi-bum is willing to let Mu-yeol be her first. After being enlightened by Jen, Gi-bum started to prepare her luggage for the trip. She brought a lot of things, even preparing as if she was moving house. Mu-yeol was surprised when he saw the luggage and laughed happily. The two of them went on a trip together, enjoying a rare private time. Sitting in the car, having no experience in love, Gi-bum had to go online to look it up, but the content that caught her eyes startled her and almost made Mu-yeol discover it. When they arrived at the resort, they had a romantic dinner together, then walked on the beach and talked heartily. However, at the crucial moment, Gi-bum suddenly felt nervous and shy. She went into the restroom for a long time without coming out, making Mu-yeol restless outside the door. Worried that something bad was going to happen, he quickly used the spare key to open the door. Gi-bum walked out in a confused state, but in the end, she still dared to face Mu-yeol. Mu-yeol hugged Gi-bum tightly. The two of them looked up at the starry sky. Under the gentle starlight, she gradually relaxed and slept soundly next to him. The next morning at the salon, an old man stood hesitantly in front of the hair salon for a long time. He did not dare to enter, making everyone in the salon curious. When the director came out to ask, the old man quickly turned around and left. Everyone was surprised by his strange actions, guessing that he was hiding something. It turned out that the old man was over 80 years old and had just lost his wife exactly a month ago. Since he was young, he had been used to being taken care of and had never done any housework himself. Before his wife passed away, she had prepared everything for her husband to live alone, but the void left by his wife was so great that it made him fall into despair. The old man felt so lonely that he could not get used to his current life. Just standing in front of the salon made him struggle mentally for a long time. For the old man, tomorrow was not a hope but a long-lasting pain. He had decided to meet his beloved wife who was waiting in the other world soon. However, in the old man's heart there was still a small but persistent thing. In his whole life, he had never once gone to a hair salon by himself like a normal person. Since he was young, his mother and wife had cut his hair, so he had never been to a hair salon before. Even though he passed by the hair salon for many days, he still did not have the courage to go in. The old man felt miserable because he was old and still could not overcome his shyness. Adapting to change was never easy, whether he was 7 or 70. Every time he mustered up courage to go to the salon, he would still quietly turn away in the end. The old man hated himself for being shy, but still couldn't overcome it. However, he understood that as long as he was alive, he should still challenge himself. Lately, the old man had been very busy because he had to deal with everyday things. Despite his old age, he still persisted in learning new things, not letting time pass by. After many failures, the old man realized that he could still start over from zero. Finally, he entered the hair salon with the determination not to turn back. The old man said he wanted to get his first haircut at the salon to fulfill his late wish. Kwang-soo took the initiative to welcome him with respect. After much hesitation, the old man finally completed his first haircut in his life. At the same time, Jen happily held the pregnancy test. She jumped for joy because her heart was relieved. Jen breathed a sigh of relief when the result showed one line. In the end, she was not pregnant. Jen immediately called Kwang-soo, planning to go on a date. She cleaned up the trash and prepared to go out, but Jen paused when she looked closely at test strip box. The box clearly stated that initial results may not be completely accurate. Jen was extremely confused. A feeling of unease rose in her heart. At the same time, Kwang-soo was meticulously preparing a romantic candlelit dinner. He wanted Jen to arrive on time for a perfect sweet date. At that moment, the phone rang. Jen said she couldn't come to the date tonight. Kwang-soo quickly called back, but no one answered the other end. Jen sadly turned away. Fear welled up in her heart because she thought she was pregnant. Even when she went to the bathroom, Jen still had hallucinations like a real pregnant woman. She was so scared that she panicked when she saw a customer's baby crying. To relieve stress, Jen went outside for some fresh air, but she still didn't feel relieved. Just thinking about the possibility of becoming a mother made her even more upset. Kwang-soo realized that Jen was unhappy but didn't know what was going on. He immediately looked for Mu-yeol. Kwang-soo hoped to know more about women's mood swings. However, Kwang-soo said very little. Mu-yeol didn't know how to answer. He thought that Mu-yeol must know because he knew a lot about girls. Later, Mu-yeol went to Jen. He asked her directly if she was angry with Kwang-soo. Kwang-soo. Jen realized that she had been indifferent, so she decided to talk things out. Jen told Kwang-soo that something bad had happened that made her panic. After saying that, Jen left the table. She went to the bathroom to check again. When she came back, Jen's face was radiant with relief. Kwang-soo asked her what happened. Jen just said that it was all resolved. She said that at first she thought she was pregnant, so she was extremely worried and scared. But just now, when she went to the bathroom to check again, Jen was relieved because the result was negative. However, after hearing that, Kwang-soo was not only unhappy but also angry and left. Jen hurriedly chased after him. She asked why he was so angry. It turned out that Kwang-soo thought that if Jen got pregnant, it was the responsibility of both of them. Although she had never experienced this before, Jen was also worried and extremely confused. Kwang-soo thought that when she panicked, he had to worry too. He couldn't stand aside. Jen realized her mistake. She took the initiative to apologize and promised to always share everything. Actually, that's how love was. Always need to listen and sympathize with the other person. Only when two people cared about each other could they be together for a long time. Because Mu-yeol was about to enlist in the army, the hair salon hired a temporary replacement. The new guy named Jong-hyun was cheerful and hardworking. He was also extremely humble. After only a few days, Jong-hyun won everyone's hearts thanks to his sincere attitude. Ji-bum also praised endlessly, making Mu-yeol feel somewhat forgotten. Mu-yeol was like an abandoned person. Even at mealtime, he did not keep his portion. After the meal, the salon welcomed a special guest that made everyone awkwardly avoid him. Suri pushed the director to meet the foreign guest, but she did not understand foreign languages. In the midst of the tension, Jong-hyun stepped out and spoke fluently to the strange guest. The director was surprised to realize that this was exactly the talent that the salon needed. Immediately, he became the new favorite, making everyone happy. Mu-yeol felt even more hurt when he realized that he seemed to be unnecessary. Yesterday, they had been still reluctant to say goodbye. Today, they was in a hurry to focus on the newcomer. The farewell party suddenly turned into an enthusiastic welcome to Jong-hyun. Everyone clinked glasses to celebrate. Only Mu-yeol sat quietly in a corner. However, fate was strange. The next day, Jong-hyun did not come to work. Just as the director was about to look up Jong-hyun's phone number in the file, a text message arrived. Mu-yeol quickly grabbed the phone to see the content of the message that had just been sent. The message read, "I don't seem to be suited for butterflies. Goodbye." The happiest person at Jong-hyun's sudden withdrawal was Mu-yeol. However, the day of their farewell finally arrived with a heavy heart. Gi-bum cut Mu-yeol's hair for the last time before he officially left for the army, because she understood that after this farewell, it would be a long time before they could see each other again. Everyone in the salon was tactful in avoiding disturbing them so that the two could have some private time. In the end, everyone sent Mu-yeol off together. After walking a few steps, Mu-yeol suddenly turned around and ran to hug Gi-bum tightly. He said that he didn't want her to stop waiting, but that he hoped Gi-bum would wait for Mu-yeol to return. At that moment, both of them couldn't bear to leave each other, even though it was time to say goodbye. Gi-bum silently watched Mu-yeol's figure disappear. 3 months later, Gi-bum, Mu-yeol's mother and younger brother, came to visit him in the barracks. Mu-yeol's mother was so happy that she was about to run to hug her son when Mu-yeol ran away first. He left his mother and younger brother behind. Mu-yeol just wanted to quickly see his beloved Gi-bum again. During lunch, he also let his mother and younger brother go for a walk. Mu-yeol didn't want anyone to bother them. Mu-yeol and Gi-bum held hands and walked on the small, sunny and windy road. They confided in each other about their memories and told each other stories. Gi-bum said that the love story between Jen and Kwang-soo was finally exposed. Even though the director didn't say anything, Jen still decided to move to another salon. In the hairstylist promotion exam, the assistant surpassed both Suri and Gi-bum. The assistant officially became the new stylist to replace Jen. Finally, Gi-bum and Mu-yeol went to the quiet wishing forest together. Although they did not know what they wished for, they had a hopeful future ahead of them. The drama ended here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you again.